Meccano? Hi. If you want even more Meccano goodness, why don't you check out my Patreon channel? And please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I post updates in the community section, not only for this week's Patreon build, but also for what I'm currently working on. Thank you, and back to the build. Hi, and welcome back. This week's build is from the 1930s Meccano Aeroplane Constructor set, and is the model S1 light single-seater biplane. I'm trying a different camera this week instead of the one I normally use for filming, and of course the lens has a wider angle, so both this build and the next one don't have the camera in quite the right spot. That's going to take a little bit of time to get right, but like everything, it is firstly a learning curve, and secondly trial and error. I feel like a lot of this is error in my case, but you can succeed if you don't allow yourself to fail. And success and failure are part of the story behind today's build, the history that is entwined in this topic, both for Meccano and the human race. Engineering is built upon failure, or more correctly, built upon the lessons learned from failure. Without those lessons being taught or learned from, we would not now be where we are as a species. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is a different matter, and not one I'm going to debate today. As a society, we frown upon the negative parts of life and laud the good. But in many ways this behaviour is a bad thing. As a young child I was told by my father that crying was bad, men don't cry. That to lose your temper was to lose control. To show pain or fear was to show weakness. That in fact anything that you failed at meant that you failed as a man, that you were worthless. He also taught me to own up to my failures, at which point they would be openly debated. But yet strangely he never taught me the right course of action, and only that I'd failed in my choice. Okay, did my father get things wrong? Yes. He also got a lot of things right, and helped me be the man I am today. I have a lot to be very grateful to him for. And what does this have to do with Meccano, flight, and the human race? We only succeed by embracing the difficult problems, by the things that stretch us, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Give me the stressful, difficult day, the day that I feel that I have failed on, because that is the day that we can learn from, to help climb to those lofty peaks. It is easy for us to forget, to even not to be able to understand what life was like a century ago. The Second World War changed the world, or more to the point allowed technology to flourish at a greater rate than any other time. When my great uncle was vying for his slot in the world land speed record, Babs was faster than any frontline fighter the RAF could field. But yet, only 4 years after his death, with Babs entombed in her sandy grave at Pendine in South Wales, his record was a distant memory. History shows that the 1930s were a time of great aviation advances, and the papers would have been full of the events that happened around the world. From the first rotary aircraft to take off from water in April in 1930 from Southampton Water off the south coast of England, or of LZ-127, the Graf Zeppelin, making its first crossing of the South Atlantic. On January the 19th of 1930, the deadliest aviation accident in American history to date happens, when a Ford Tri-Motor Flight 7 of Maddox Airlines crashes in Oceanside, California, killing all 16 people. But maybe the one that captures my imagination is the 19-year-old Rex Finney. Mr. Finney from Los Angeles was the first wingsuit to be flown in the US. From my research, I can find no information of the flight, just that it happened. This young man had created his own wingsuit from canvas, wood, silk and whalebone. Following on the footsteps of Austrian-born Franz Reinhold, a French tailor who was the first person to use a wing in 1912, jumping from his base on the Eiffel Tower. Unlike Monsieur Reinhold, who died in his attempt, Mr. Finney was successful. But that is it, nothing else. Another American hero and inventor who is lost to history and time. When it comes to wingsuits now, I stand in awe looking at the achievements of pilots like British Fraser Corzine, who captured the speed record at nearly 250 miles per hour in 2017. The monthly Meccano magazine dedicated several pages per month to a section called Air News, covering all types of events, advancements and record-breaking successes, as well as failures. At the time, people read the news of these achievements and advances with as much awe as we pay to Teslas or other EVs and breakthroughs with new electronics. This was the new future, the future of flight and then space. The science fiction at the time, Flash Gordon or H.G. Wells' Things to Come, showed a future that was both dark and marvellous in its advancements. Out of interest, Things to Come is a great film to watch. Filmed in 1936 and set in 1940, it talks of a world war amongst other things, discussing the very real threat of aerial bombing of cities. The futuristic aircraft towards the end are just wonderful artistic ideas, as they have no aerodynamics at all. But yet, were based on aircraft all the time. The Blériot 125 in 1930 is similar in design theory of those of the movie and was scrapped in 1933 as being unflyable. Meccano, as always, was not far behind on what was happening. Produced the first of their Aeroplane Constructor sets in 1931. The instructions start with the following text. The aeroplane is rapidly taking its place as a regular means of high-speed transport, and the time is not far distant when we shall use them as readily as today we employ the train, the steamship, or the motor car. In the future we shall cross the ocean in giant flying boats that will traverse well-marked routes. Overland routes will be even more numerous than those crossing the sea, and these will be thronged with aeroplanes carrying both passengers and goods at speeds far exceeding those today. At the point of writing this script in November of 2021, there are 279 aircraft in the air over the UK, so they're not far off the mark. The instructions go on to say, now is the time for every boy to learn how aeroplanes are designed and constructed, and to recognise at a glance the different types. The basic 00 kit makes a light biplane, a high-wing monoplane, and a low-wing monoplane, powered by a clockwork motor that would both spin the propeller and turn the wheels around to allow the model to appear to taxi along the floor. As with all sets, examples of existing aircraft of each class would be stated in the instructions. In the case of this kit, the aircraft that are referenced are the Arrow Active and the Southern Martlet. Both aircraft seem to be unimportant, with the Active only having 2 airframes built and the Martlet having 6 built. But as always with this channel, it's when you start going down rabbit holes that the history slowly starts to reveal itself to you. The Southern Martlet was built by F.G. Miles of the Southern Aircraft Company, founded in 1928 and running until the late 1940s. Its founder, Frederick Miles, was the son of a local laundry businessman, and at a young age he decided his future was in aviation. He had no formal training in aircraft designs, and his first airframe, the Gnat, was built in the workshop of the laundry, but was never to feel the flow of air under its wings. The first Martlet was a converted Avro Baby, a small, lightweight biplane, and he converted it for aerobatics, or, in modern words, took a stock vehicle and modded it for speed and performance. By 1947, something had gone very wrong with Southern Aircraft, and Miles, along with the other directors, were all forced to resign, and the company folded. By 1948, he was back and formed F.G. Miles Limited. The company, no pun intended, took off. One of the driving forces behind Miles was his wife, Maxine Forbes Robinson, known as Blossom. She married Miles after he taught her to fly, and went on to be a draftwoman in the business. At a time when women were meant to be at home, to be a woman designing aircraft, many of which were military aircraft, and a lot of them groundbreaking in their design, is worthy of respect. Miles Aircraft went on to not only make groundbreaking aircraft, but are probably best remembered for their RAF trainers and advanced trainers that were designed and built. Okay, I'm going to admit it. I am a bit of a Meccano fanboy, just a tad. Of all the things you can make, all the options that Meccano gives, and also I love the fact that it works. But these kits are just, to me, perfect. They capture a period of time that is iconic within the 20th century. A time of innocence and hope, of social change and growth as we left the Depression behind, albeit slowly. This kit was purchased as several parts slowly over late 2020 and early 2021 from eBay. And while it's just about complete now, it is also from several different kits. And there are a number of differences between the parts, showing the history and evolution of the aircraft constructor sets from their beginning in 1931 through to their eventual demise in the darkest times of World War II in 1941, a time when Meccano had to shut its doors to scale engineering and focus on the task of saving a nation. After the conflict, air transport had changed forever. The Flash Gordon-inspired dreams had gone, and the lovable but unmodern biplane was just old hat, not cricket anymore. We entered the Second World War with fighter aircraft with a maximum speed of around 250 miles per hour, and left with jet fighters sitting on the tarmac. And like many things, these kits just went. The pre-war blue and gold patterned Meccano that heralded such a new and bright future returned to red and green, and the Aeroplane Constructor kits quietly disappeared into history. And finally, I'm sorry, I didn't film the rigging of this model. I will capture it again in another build, but for some reason it just didn't happen.